helps to absorb it.
Because it's copper
Yeah,
and it's damaged because the slate.
copper's not, those copper ones, I don't even know if you can find those.
They make them.
Copper gutters,
They'll make it.
custom.
They got a company that come in and it's crazy. But God, they need to get it done.
Yeah. Well,
I'm over it.
That needs to be replaced for a long time.
Well, it was in 2003.
Was it fully replaced
That's what they said.
with more slate?
And it'll be slate again.
But it's a different type. Isn't it?
Same type, but it's we know where it's coming from, and they grade it like it's British. We don't even have a grade for slate in the United States. It's S1.
It's so historic.
And the last time they did it, it was from Japan.
Better than that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. As the council can see, tonight we've got a pretty healthy agenda. So
Yeah.
I appreciate everyone's commitment to the meeting tonight and take care of first business on behalf of the city of Clifton. Next on the agenda is the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the September 9th, 2024 minutes as submitted. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any amendments to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the community reports. This is the second meeting of the month. We'll begin with the Board of Works and Safety.
We met today. First thing we did was approve trash bids from Republic. They were the only company that submitted bids. We opened those in executive session last week and then accepted them today. Fire department, it's been the same with the runs and stuff. The big thing is we have contingently hired a EMS captain who will take over managing the EMS. She comes with a lot of experience. I think 14 years is what Chief Bittner said. She lives in Tipton, but she currently also works for Hamilton County Fishers, I think, fire department. So that'll be nice. Police department, total pullovers were up pretty high, 186 total traffic stops in August. So we've seen a lot more traffic stops and citations. And then code enforcement, we actually didn't have anything on the slate today. We reviewed some of the older properties we've been working on, like the red brick and a couple other things. That was it.
And then just to clarify on you said the bids were open in executive session, they were open in a special session. Just
We were here, nobody else showed up.
yeah, correct. It could have been.
Just three of us.
Next is golf advisory.
Golf advisory didn't meet for the met this month.
Thank you. Moving on, solid waste district.
We did meet this morning, nothing precedent or anything where they cleaned up all the yard waste. Now they're working to get the fence line cleaned up and stuff. Just normal.
Very good. Street, alley, and sidewalk.
Street alley sidewalk did meet. We finished up discussion on sidewalk program for this year. Had some discussion with Mark about speed limit signs. I don't know if they're quite all up yet.
I believe today was the last day of installation.
That'll be interesting. The 2023 Community Crossing Grant, Mayor did have the walkthrough, and I hope a lot of you've seen some of the small things that hadn't been completed are now completed. 2024 Community Crossing, that project should be starting sometime next month. We did talk about yard waste containers, which we've talked about for quite some time. And then Street Department did share with us they did get the leaf pickup vacuum. It's about an antique, but he got it running again, so we'll be able to pick up leaves. I hope.
True.
That's it.
Thank you. Planning Commission.
We did meet on September 12th. We had a couple of resolutions come across EDA, one of them for the downtown area and the HP Alloys area, which both were approved and passed. We did discuss a little bit on the solar ordinance draft. It needs a few little things tweaked on it, so it went back to the committee to get that done. Other than that, that was a pretty short meeting.
Thanks, Rich. Utility Board?
Utility board met, in East Chambers last Monday. Jim says that, everything's going well. The work for the water tower at 2831 should start soon, and, the piping, coming into town is going well, so everything's good with utilities.
Very good. Last is Youth Council, and as many of you likely saw in the paper, we did kick that off in early September. We had 16 students participating on behalf of Tipton Schools. A lot of those are actually younger classmen, sophomores, and some juniors. So excited about the curriculum that those students are going to learn, and there will be a project component of this. So there should be some opportunity even for this board here to engage with the students as they propose and seek to execute a project here in the city of Tipton. Moving on now to new business, of course, our annual discussion about trick-or-treat hours. Opinions from the council on trick-or-treat this year? I believe the Halloween is on the 31st. Is a Thursday?
Correct.
Thursday?
We probably
Okay.
should have trick-or-treat hours.
Like we do every year, the 30th and 31st from 5 to 8.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Second.
So motion and a second to approve trick-or-treat hours on October 30th and 31st.
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
If you don't have candy, we should make it like a $10 fine.
Next up-
You gotta get money from somewhere.
Next up on our agenda is Etika Group. Etika is coming to us to do a brief presentation on the feasibility study that we had completed. This is more of a communication on the process by which we took to complete this feasibility study, some of the results of that feasibility study, and then some, identification on where we go from here. So with that, Toby, I'll invite you up. And apologies to the crowd. We continue to have challenges with this screen behind us, which would be to your all's benefit. We continue to troubleshoot that challenge.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor, for introducing me. My name is Toby Whittaker. I'm with the Etika Group. So we worked on a study in basically March through the end of May, so about 3 months, trying to do, I guess, a comprehensive look at the public safety needs, both looking at the existing building and the, what could happen in the future. So the real purpose of a feasibility study there's kind of 4 pieces we looked at. Risk cost analysis is one of those components. So, what are the risks? What are the costs that could be involved in any type of project? Really, this serves as a decision-making tool for the future. So, the information that's in here is, no decisions have been made, but it's a guide map or a guide to help the town and make decisions moving forward. I think really important was stakeholder support. So it wasn't Etika Group dictating anything. We met with firefighters, police, chiefs, both sides. We had town council members, we had mayors. So we had, all levels within Tipton involved to look at this information. So I think what's been sort of the results of the study, I think definitely was a group effort. And then I think one of the things whole goal here is to enhance the safety of the community, enhance the safety of the users, of your first responders. So I think that's one of the biggest things to take away from this in terms of looking at the facilities, is that we're ultimately trying to provide improved facilities and health and safety standards. So some of the things we did in the process, we looked at location analysis. So that's one of the key things is the community, is the station in the right place, and can you get to the places you need to get to, the services provided, which is particularly important in the fire service and on the EMS side. So we took a look at that. We did a facility condition assessment of the existing building. It's a 20-plus-year-old building, so it has some deficiencies and needs. And then we also looked at the needs assessment, so that's really more, what do the police department need? What does the fire department need? And, with the amount of growth in the last 20 years, there's definitely some very tight space constraints. And then we did look at some concept development, so you'll see that in the presentation. Some of the concepts were put together is like, how do you proceed with improving the facilities long-term? And then that included, to some degree, looking at various budget scenarios. So overview, the current building was constructed in the late 1990s. It's had, it has had minimal maintenance, but it has some maintenance needs. And then also, the staffing for both departments has doubled in the last 20 years. So, a building that was built 20 years ago now has twice as many staff. And so it doesn't, from a capacity perspective, there's just not enough room to allow the departments to grow. And then, future growth, as economic development opportunities come about in Tipton or the Tipton region, there could be opportunities at State Road 28. So there's kind of two maps up there. The top map is the existing coverage in blue, and that's basically a 4 and 6 minute drive time from the current station, which is sort of the NFPA, which is a fire department standard. The red actually then would sort of says, what if it's west and it could get out to the 2831 corridor? So again, that's just an analysis of, what needs to happen in the future if growth occurs, west or toward the highway. That's something to be considered in the process.
And just some other further information on why this is important for us in the city of Tipton, because city limits don't extend out to 28 and 31. However, if there's a structure fire at 28 and 31, the ladder truck at Tipton Fire Department does get dispatched. We do have countywide EMS, so we're providing that paramedic service across the entire county. So getting access to those critical points in the county do have an impact to us here in the city. So trying to make a decision based on those current needs and future needs.
So kind of I'll get a couple slides here on some of the short. So when we did the building assessment, why we look at those as like the more short-term needs. Like these are the things that really need to happen, sooner than later. So windows, doors, and the metal wall panels are really at the end of their life and need replacement. Heating and cooling systems in the building. Biggest thing is there needs to be more ventilation in the building. And then there's damage to the canopy, front walks, and those areas that are all kind of really in need of repair and replacement. A few other things is really related more to the standards. And even though these are NFPA fire department standards, I think the same things apply to the police department. Vehicle exhaust system in the garage bays is a big one. Ability to clean firefighter gear and having proper storage areas. And then, there's one shower for all staff to use. So, the goal is if there's an incident and whether it's fire department or police needs to remove contaminants from their body, clothing, etc., there's very limited space in order to do that. And so, that's a health safety consideration for the, our front line. And then, so kind of look then specifically at more of the spatial needs. So for the police department, larger evidence room with proper ventilation, ideally sally port, a holding cell, a weapons armory, and then interview room with a viewing space, and then they need more offices and bigger patrol room, bigger break room. So, currently they have, 4 people in a very, very small office, and so when they're working, they start on top of each other. Then as far as the fire department, additional sleeping areas, particularly with the adjacent restrooms. I mean, that's the biggest component is, again, just being able to having one restroom for 7 bunks is, the industry standard is more of a 2-to-1 ratio. So that would be a big functional component. A watch room, which is where they do report writing. And then just the living areas are really undersized for the amount of, for the current, number of firefighters. And so if there's any growth, it just continues to get more crowded. So And then the last kind of piece, kind of going, again, circling back on the importance of this life safety and contamination control, is really to support improve long-term health and safety of the first responders. I mean, that's what this comes down to. So again, adequate showers, ventilation is probably the biggest thing, proper gear storage, and those components. So those are really the biggest components in that system that will help improve the facility. And then finally, a few, I guess, shared. The one advantage we heard a lot was that there was a very connected, the police and fire are very connected. They like being in a safe facility. It allows for some shared uses. And so some of the things they share currently would be reception, having restrooms and showers, fitness room and training room are all areas where space can be shared between the departments. So that adds to some of the efficiencies of the building use. So just an overview of the existing space. So the existing building is 14,300 square feet. It's about half of it's the fire department, probably a fourth of it is the police department, and so and then this space also includes the buildings that are behind the alley. They're used for, there's some separate evidence and fitness areas that are kind of separate from the main building. So that includes all of that square footage. Overview of spacing. So what basically we're proposing is an addition of another 10,000 square feet. So basically the fire and the police departments, in terms of the space they have now, they kind of need to double that space. And then, the shared functions don't really increase. They just become, they'll be used by both departments. So, total increase of approximately 10,000 square feet. Okay, so I'll try to, I know there's a lot of information here, so I'm going to go through there's basically 4 concept scenarios that we put together. Again, any of these can be moved forward with. I would even say there's probably even some combination of these that could work in the future. So again, these are just ideas of how, based on all the feedback we received from different groups, and so we'll go through that. So first scenario would be expanding at the current site. So again, this would maintain both departments together. You can kind of see in the brown, that would be the added portions of the building. They would keep the station in the center of town. This one would be difficult to phase because the building would have to still operate while construction is basically going on around the entire facility. So there would be some challenges from a phasing perspective. The other thing is that if there was a need to get coverage more to the west, this option would actually would not potentially improve that. So wait for it to come back, or I'll just keep going. And then
Our IT woes continue.
yeah. So the second part of this is we kind of get a little bit into we did more detailed space, a little bit of space planning on what that actually looks like. So everything that's kind of in the red, orange to the right side of the drawing is kind of the fire department half, and everything that's kind of on the left side of the drawing is more the police department. Again, training room in the middle would be shared. The fitness room then is on the existing second floor, and that could also be a shared function between the departments. So this option proposes that the buildings, then parking would be added on the south side or the alley side. Another scenario would be to relocate one of the buildings. In this case, we set the fire station, that it would be relocating the fire station to a new location, which would allow for to get a new station built at current standards, roughly 15,000 square feet. And then another phase could be renovate the existing building then to house the police department. So this would be a scenario where both the departments would kind of separate from their current configuration. And potentially if improving response time to State Road 2831 intersection was important, it could move in a direction that would allow that. Scenario 3 is really just a phased approach to this. So the way we looked at this option is there are some needs that can be addressed on this existing building that can solve some of those life safety items. So we looked at this as, you could put an addition on the building and get a sally port and an evidence storage and ventilation, and then be able to do gear cleaning for the fire department. Those would be two big pieces of solving this puzzle that could happen at the existing building. And then anything in the future could just be determined at a later time. So whether that's building a new station or a complete facility, but the idea is that it kind of gives you there's some opportunity to take a step in the middle before making a bigger decision. So. And then a last scenario could just be build a new facility. So again, that would, everything that kind of depends on, timing, all that type of stuff. So there you go, future. Any questions?
Any questions from the council on?
No, look like what we got them via email a few weeks ago.
Correct. Okay. Do we want to thank you for joining us this evening and giving us a brief review? Of course, the realities are much more intense than that. I appreciate council members Ken Amon and Nate Green for joining us in those sessions. I had 5, maybe 6 meetings with the collective stakeholders, and so I appreciate the brief report out. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Structure Point Engineering. We'll change out some technology here. Can I go ahead and close this, Toby?
Yeah.
Structure Point is joining us in regards to the LPA grant for the Jefferson Street rebuild. That project, as a reminder, is slated for 2028. But of course, there's work happening between now and then. So we're going to do a quick report out on the work that's been accomplished so far, and next steps as we continue toward that 2028 deadline or start time, maybe. I'll grab that remote.
We did. Knocked it down to 30 mile an hour out there. All the way to 300.
Both sides of the golf course are city property. So I think there is some kind of.
Is it just a fairground road or is it all the way
all
to
the way to
300?
Fairgrounds Road, but it doesn't go out to 300, but there's some kind of liberalization clause where you can adjust speed limits slightly. I think we can do it all the way through the fringe in some cases, if the road goes into the city or something like that. They want it to go faster?
Yeah.
We'll make it 60.
Evidently, I didn't get all the gist. He was barking down my throat about it. I'm like, I said, I'm pretty sure, but let me do some checking. But I remember that.
Probably just territory thing.
But I just thought, in my mind, I told him, I said, I think it's just from Fairground Road to into town because that's city limits.
Correct.
And he goes, well, that ain't what I'm hearing.
That is city limits. I didn't think
Yeah,
it's city limits.
no, I mean, on out to 300.
I thought that was already.
There we are.
Because it's residential.
I don't think it's ever been.
Just as planned.
Well, we did them a favor.
And now it is posted because if it's not posted, it's 45. Legally,
We did them a favor then.
as far as I'm concerned.
All right, good evening. My name is Jamie Stutzel, and I'm a project manager with American Structure Point. I've also got with me here one of our design engineers, Levi Mishalki, and I'm here to talk about the Jefferson Street reconstruction project. This portion of the project goes from Buck Creek to the west side of Independence Street. It's approximately 0.7 miles in length, and the plan is to completely reconstruct the road through this section. Part of what we've done to this point is earlier this spring, we held stakeholder meetings. We had 4 different meetings. Those included municipal, police, fire, parks, street department. Those people also talked to local residents, talked to bicyclists and pedestrians, and then business owners that were mainly focused kind of in the downtown area. and held 4 of those different sessions to kind of get a feel for what people think Jefferson Street needs to look like, what deficiencies there are, what issues there are that we want to address. From that meeting, some of the main things we found was traffic speeds through town, truck traffic, pedestrian and bicycle safety, just that connectivity where things are missing, getting across the streets. We heard from a number of people that they felt with the new stops or with stop signs instead of stoplights, it was less safe. Police and fire actually felt it was more safe. So it was interesting kind of seeing the different perspectives from the groups. Also looking at drainage along Jefferson Street corridor, there's not a lot of inlets. We've got some combined sanitary with storm in that area. And then also kind of, I would say, a perceived lack of parking in the downtown area as well. And I say perceived because I think there's some difference. Some people think there's enough, some people don't think there's enough. I think you can always have more, is how some people feel that is. So kind of what we looked at then was, how do we address those concerns? What things do we do? Do we look at roadway right sizing, pedestrian accessibility, what kind of drainage improvements, and what kind of traffic calming measures that we can do to improve that? And kind of digging into those a little bit more, right sizings really, are we reducing roadway widths? Are we maintaining parking? Are we adding additional parking? For pedestrian improvements, can we look at shared use paths, sidewalk improvements, curb extensions, which basically bring the curbs further out into the roadway, that sometimes are used as a traffic calming measure, but also shortening that distance that people have to cross the street. Drainage improvements, looking at how can we separate the combined sewer system that's along Jefferson Street? How do we get additional curb inlets in? Things like under drain. Are we draining the water below the pavement? Currently, we're not. There's brick below the pavement out there today. We're not getting that water out from underneath the pavement. And I think you're seeing some of those issues with some of the distresses in the pavement because of that water and the fact that we're not getting that water out of there. And again, some additional traffic calming measures. Do we look at raising intersections slightly by several inches? Do we look at speed tables and other things? So we've looked at a number of different things and considered some of those. So what I'll do is I'll kind of take a step back and talk about what we have today. This project really is broken into 2 segments in my mind. One is the residential section between Buck Creek and West Street, and the second part is West Street to Independence, where we've got the businesses. Currently today, the road, and I just lost this.
It'll come back.
Currently, the road today is about 30 feet wide in the residential area. Sidewalk is 5 feet on either side of it. And we got that, but we don't have. Okay. This just adds to the fun of the, see if that works. So currently today, we've got about that 30-foot section. What we've looked at in a proposed section is that we'll actually narrow the road a little bit. Instead of 30 feet of pavement, we're going to look at about 24 feet of pavement. That way the lanes are about 12 feet wide. We'll also have curb and gutter. On the north side, we'll look at a sidewalk about 6 feet wide, since it's on the back of curb. And then on the south side, we'll look at a multi-use path that's going to be 8 feet wide and separated from the road by a 3-foot grass buffer strip. Okay. It's gonna keep.
Yeah, you want to check, make sure that plug's plugged in down there, Tim.
It's a hell of a sidewalk, 8 foot wide.
Nice.
Right on.
So what that ultimately does is by reducing the pavement a little bit and adding some of these extra features, we're only widening the footprint of the road about 2 to 3 feet on either side. The other thing we've done with this scenario is we've shifted the road a little bit to the north, so that widening is somewhat symmetrical. All of that stays within existing right-of-way. The next is here in the downtown area as it comes in and out. What this is basically in the downtown area, we've got about 42 feet of pavement, and then sidewalks are about 11 and a half feet wide. What we've looked at in this area is trying to reduce that down a little bit to 2 lanes, 1 lane in either direction, making sure we have parking on both sides of the roadway, and then maintaining that sidewalk on the north and maintaining the sidewalk, or, the multi-use path. We'll see if this works any better. Maintaining that multi-use path on the south side of the road. So again, kind of narrowing that up a little bit, shrinking that profile. One of the other things we looked at with this is also taking, and there's some, you can see that.
Sure.
If I talk to it, it doesn't work. Doing these curb extensions, so basically where you get to the intersections, bringing those out. So instead of having to cross 42 feet of pavement or having to cross more, you're only having to cross 24 feet of pavement. So a much smaller, shorter area to get across. The other thing that does is it also gets the pedestrians out closer to the traffic, which at first sounds a little convoluted, not as safe, but it lets people see them. If they're back too far, if they're back behind parked cars, you can't see them. By bringing them closer to the road, people can see them and connect with them, and it makes it safer in the long run. Actually here, we'll pass out.
How does that narrowing affect police and fire?
It can affect police and fire from the standpoint, so this is the full presentation.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Generally though, because you've got enough area and enough space, it doesn't affect them too much. As long as people have a place to pull out to or pull away from and get out of the intersection, police and fire can still get through. And by maintaining that 24 feet, we still have enough access that they can use the other lane. I wouldn't want to go any narrower than that because then I think we're going to affect them more significantly. So part of then what we looked at here, and it's a little hard to see, but this is kind of through downtown, is we've got curb bump outs at West Street. We looked at a tabletop intersection at Main Street, which basically raises the road up by about 6 inches. And what that does is, one, it helps slow down traffic, but not detrimentally since it's through the whole intersection. You kind of come up, go through the intersection, come down. But what that does for pedestrians, you don't have to go down a ramp. You're directly at the same elevation as the sidewalk through that area. So it's easier for pedestrians to move. And we thought that was one traffic calming measure that works well. And at Main Street seems like a good solution to look at for that. The other thing with this right now is we're looking at angled parking in front of the courthouse. That angled parking actually adds an additional 10 spaces that are not there today. And just by getting parking on both sides of the street, we get another 10 spaces. So roughly 20 spaces can be added by kind of bringing this road profile in. The other thing in bringing that profile in, it should help slow down traffic. As it gets a little tighter, people have a tendency to slow down as they move forward. The other thing we're looking at here too is subsurface, so utilities. Right now, drainage design will take water from Independence all the way out to Buck Creek. Brand new storm sewer system separating from the sanitary. Also, as part of the project, we met with Tipton Municipal Utilities today, looking at replacing any of the crossings of the sanitary that are along Jefferson, and also looking at replacing the water main, fire hydrants, and services to the houses along Jefferson. The big advantage of that is while the road's open, while we have traffic shut down, we can get all these things updated. We have, I know we've talked, there's vitrified clay pipe, there's corrugated metal pipes, there's old water mains in place. We can bring that all up to standard within this project, and there will be some cost savings benefit to everyone through the project, the utilities, the utility ratepayers, plus the city. The other thing we'll do with this is we'll add new lighting, and we'll also get some under drains in the roadway as well to take care of that subsurface. So one of the big things with a project like this, and even though we're still a few years out, we're starting to look at how do we build it. Today, truck traffic is supposed to use 31 to Division and come down 19. We know that's an issue. I think part of making these changes is we're hoping to discourage some of that through truck movement by narrowing this footprint. But this will also be the main detour during construction. Yes, it's getting people around town, but it's trying to divert some of that traffic. What we'll look at then for construction is kind of a 4 to 5 phase piece. breaking this up into different chunks so we're not tearing up town all at one time. The first kind of big chunk is actually from Buck Creek through those first intersections. What we do with this is probably look at a one-lane traffic control signal option. That way it still allows people to get across Buck Creek. You don't have to go as far north or as far south to County Road 200 to get across Buck Creek. So by staging it this way, we'll get that initial piece done in two parts. We'll do half at a time. That will then allow us, once that piece is done, to move more into the residential. But then we've got Sweetland and 4th Street as access points to get to the north and south of Jefferson Street to get around for more of that local traffic. Also, this will help fire, EMS, police responses as well. We may look at in this section, do we need to break the residential into two pieces? But again, kind of looking at the residential in one big chunk. The next component then would be moving more into that downtown or that transitional area, West Street to Main. Our goal would be to leave Main and Independence open while West is closed. And then flipping to the next phase, we go from Main to Independence. That way Independence and West Street are open while Main is closed, trying to maintain that north-south connectivity. So looking at, a couple different options, how we'd stage this. The other main reason for staging it this way is since our storm sewer is emptying out at Buck Creek, we'll work from the downstream end up. That'll allow us to kind of work through the system and get up back up to Independence Street. Schedule-wise, right now, we have turned in stage 1 plans, which is about 25-30%. We've got review comments back on that. We're working kind of towards a stage 2 in fall of 2025. Currently, this project is set to bid in the summer of 28. We'd ideally like to get it bid in December of 27 if possible. That is contingent on if we need right-of-way acquisition and environmental portions of the project as well. This project does have funding. It's an 80-20 split. 80% is from a federal grant, 20% is from the city. So having to meet those federal requirements, there are certain hoops and hurdles we have to jump through to make sure we meet all the environmental pieces. So that is a relatively quick run through. At this time, if you guys have questions or concerns or things you'd like to talk about, I'm here to answer those for you.
Good project. Good deal. So this, more for the public probably knowledge, but this is separate from what we're doing next month.
Yeah.
And speaking with Keegan and some of the others, the goal is some of the stuff we do maybe won't be throwaway, but it could be throwaway. That this project in October is to get us through till 2028, 2029, whenever this is done.
Yes, and as
Correct.
part of that too, I know we've looked at some of these curb extensions and doing some things, and I think they're going to try to incorporate some of those in to kind of get a feel for them over the next few years before maybe they're fully implemented in this project.
I think maybe some of the parking, we should give it a test run for the parking, and if it works, then we'll use it for sure.
Any other comments, questions from the council? Otherwise, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
I like the way it looks. Love it.
Moving on the agenda, no items under old business. Under mayor's report, just want to make a quick comment on ARPA funds. This is more for documentation. Of course, by the end of this year, we've got to have those committed toward a project of some fashion. The remainder of the $149,000 roughly that's in that line item is going to be used to help fund the Trails Extension project. So just wanted to make that disclaimer or disclosure today so we all know. And it's documented in our records now that the rest of those funds will be used for that purpose. Moving on to the healthiest portion of the agenda this evening, resolutions and ordinances. As the veteran members of the council know, the top end of this is routine budget process business, but nonetheless, we'll begin with resolution 2024-17. It's a resolution to reduce appropriations in the general fund for 2024.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024-17. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
All right.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is Resolution 2024-18, a resolution to reduce appropriations in the CCD fund for 2024.
I move we adopt resolution 2024-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2024-18 signify by stating aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is Resolution 2024-19, a resolution to reduce appropriations in the edit fund for 2024.
I move we adopt resolution 2024-19.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve Resolution 2024-19. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is Resolution 2024-20. It's a resolution to reduce appropriations in the ambulance fund for 2024.
I move to approve 2024-20 resolution.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve Resolution 2024-20. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is Resolution 2024-21, a resolution to reduce appropriations in the local road and bridge matching grant fund for 2024.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2024-21.
Motion is seconded to approve Resolution 2024-21. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2024-22, a resolution to reduce appropriations in the Fairfield Cemetery Capital Improvement Fund for 2024.
This needs to be edited. It says grand total reduced in ambulance fund on the resolution.
Sure it is.
Resolution.
So I would make a motion to approve resolution 2024-22 with the amendment that it says grand total reduced in the cemetery capital improvement fund 4651.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended Resolution 2024-22. All those in favor of approving the amended resolutions signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay. and
Motion
Rich.
carries.
Is that who?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't say something earlier. I literally saw it right before the meeting started, so.
Next is Resolution 2024-23. It's a resolution to reduce appropriations in the opioid restricted fund for 2024.
I move we approve resolution 2024-23.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve Resolution 2024-23. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Next is Resolution 2024-24, a resolution to reduce appropriations in the opioid unrestricted fund for 2024.
I move we approve resolution 2024-24.
Second.
So motion and second to approve Resolution 2024-24. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, Resolution 2024-25, resolution to reduce appropriations in the unsafe building fund for 2024.
Make a motion, we accept 2024-25 resolution.
Second.
Motion and seconded to approve Resolution 2024-25. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution 2024-26. It's a resolution establishing the downtown economic development area.
I move we approve resolution 2024-26.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further question, comment? All those in favor of approving Resolution 2024-26 signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is Resolution 2024-27, resolution establishing the HP Always Economic Development Area.
I move to approve 2024-27.
There's a motion and a second to approve resolution 2024-27. Any further question, comment? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, and that wraps up our resolutions for this evening. Moving on to ordinances. We have ordinance 2024-10. It's an amendment to the previously passed DORA ordinance. This is for second and final reading.
Move we adopt ordinance 2024-10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2024-10 on second and final reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to ordinance 2024-11. It's an ordinance for Form B adopting the 2025 budget on first reading.
I move we approve ordinance 2024-11.
Second.
Do you have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2024-11? Any further question and comment?
Is that Tim, the second?
Ken?
Ken?
If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is ordinance 2024-12. It is an ordinance setting salaries for elected officials for year 2025 as required by IC Code 36-4-7-2 on first reading.
I move that we pass ordinance 2024-12.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further question, comment? All those in favor of approving ordinance 2024-12?
These
Oh,
do apply, council raises apply to utility board members, I believe.
Yeah, whatever the
Whatever we
council
approve,
did.
just so everyone knows. That applies to.
oh, you're saying that carries to the
Correct.
utility board? Yep.
Utility board rates are, board member
Commensurate
rates
with.
are based on our rates, in case anybody didn't know that.
Thanks for that. Motion and second to approve ordinance 2024-12 on first reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Can I ask who's second?
Yes.
Mr. Rippey?
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
You done forgot.
Next is ordinance 2024-13, ordinance setting maximum salaries, wages, and other compensation for police officers, firefighters, and all other employees of the city of Tipton for year 2025 on first reading.
I move we adopt ordinance 2024-13.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2024-13. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. No big sigh of relief.
I was.
Not bad.
That was a healthy agenda there.
Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
We are now to the claims portion of our agenda.
Where'd they go?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve claims 177353 through 177578 in the amount of $740,024.87.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve claims totaling $740,024.87. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions tonight? Motion carries. We are now at petitions, comments, and memorials.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna work with Mark and Nate. Not sure exactly when the date is yet, but we need to close down, or we're gonna try to close down Main Street, that first block from Jefferson to Madison. We're not gonna close it. What they wanna do is shuffle the traffic, cut off all the parking for that block, and then move it over, because we're gonna have a 180-foot crane to do the work on the roof of the courthouse.
You know a timeline on that? I just saw an email.
It's 1st of October.
Okay.
Is when they're gonna set up and start in October.
October.
Yeah. So they're gonna start on the south side of the courthouse on the drive. They're gonna set up there so they know they wanna get on the roof and make sure that it didn't totally just shot all over it, because they don't know the shape of the slate. So they're gonna start there and then they'll move their way around and then we'll know more the closer that date comes. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that we would like to do that. It's got a picture on that email it sent you where it shows shuffling the track. We're going to try to keep 2 lanes open. So we'll use 1 lane and the parking for north and south traffic to go by the crane.
But the,
And probably it'll be several days by the time they get up there.
the Main Street traffic closure though was in early November. Isn't that what that email said?
Well, today at the meeting, they were talking like they wanted to, the whole project's supposed to take approximately 6 weeks.
Okay.
So anywhere from, depending on weather and this and that and the other, they're gonna try to start the first week of October, possibly. They've got a specialist that gets up there 180 feet in the air and does that stuff, and it ain't me. So I figured I'd let everybody know, and then Nate said he'd help me, and then I'll get with Mark with the street department, and when it comes time, and give them the dates and what we're doing or what we'd like to see done.
I advise Rich, I'd help him, we go through the normal process of getting the street closure forms, because we need the chiefs to weigh in about safety.
Right,
Mark
yeah,
Clark
right.
weigh in about street. EMS, I think it's on there too.
Right. We'll have to make some communication with the school corporation too.
Yes.
Just,
Absolutely.
that's good. Okay. Thanks, Rich, for that information.
You're welcome. Let's get her done. I've been looking at it too long.
Good evening. I'm Ross Cochran, 1033 Market Road.
Hey, Rob.
I'm here tonight as a board member representative for the Tiffin Main Street Association. The board wanted to extend their appreciation for the relationship we've had with the city, and we'd just like to provide you with some updates on our current projects for the remainder of the year, and then touch on some exciting things for 2025. We had a hugely successful summer with our food truck Fridays and cruise-ins. We had a record number of attendance for that. The flower pot program had more requests to participate than we had available flower pots. And the Hometown Hero banners experienced incredible success as well. All 3 of these projects have proven to be the cornerstone of what we do. We have a new event that we're putting on. It is the first annual Halloween Bash. We partnered with the Mad Tap right here around the corner. It's a 21 and over event. And we have had tremendous community support. We had a community member step up. They purchased 7 tickets that are available for free to first responders, city employees. So if any first responders want to attend, just contact any of us at the Main Street event, and there's a free beer on us waiting for them. We're excited for this fundraiser and the potential it has to be a success. It's something we think we can keep doing. We're also preparing for 'Tis the Season. It's our biggest event. Largest event every year, and it brings thousands of local folks into our downtown each holiday season. While we are actively working on events for 24, we are also planning for 2025 as well. Congratulations on passing the DORA ordinance. We're excited to hear this, as we have been heavily involved in the planning process during the initial plans for this project. We've been preparing to partner with the city to distribute marketing materials, cups, and connect with local businesses as the ordinance rolls out. We were hoping we could gain clarity tonight on where we fit into this project moving forward. We would love to continue to partner with the city on projects that focus on our downtown, as it directly aligns with our mission statement. So we were just wondering if we could get some clarity. We've been involved in that project. The logo had been incorporated at some point. We were just wondering how can we help you guys? We want to be involved.
Sure.
How are we going to be involved in this going forward?
So I think from a rollout perspective, that's something that we're still defining, working with both McCormick's likely and Apple Group on the cups themselves, trying to dictate what the size of those cups are. And we continue to reach out to communities who've had this success to learn some best practices. So a lot of that rollout is still undefined, as we, of course, from now, we'll send it to the state of Indiana to get approved formally. And from that, as you mentioned, the marketing, communicating with those who plan to distribute or sell. Of course, there'll be some education piece of that too. So a lot of that still needs to be defined as we roll that out, but appreciate your willingness to help and partner with us on that.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Rob.
The dates on the Halloween bash now, those are not over Halloween, right? Those are.
October 12th.
October
Would
12th.
be a Saturday.
I just didn't want them to
and
interfere with trick or treat.
It will not interfere with your trick or treat hours. You'll still be able to dress up and go get your candy, Ken, don't worry.
What hours is that?
It'll be 6 to 10. Dinner will start at 6, and then the band, we hired a Halloween themed band, the Graveyard Stompers. And they'll be playing Halloween music from 7 to 10. But again,
Halloween music.
would love to see you all there. So,
Monster Mash.
Monster Mash.
Monster Mash.
Okay.
so yep, that's all I got. Thank you
Is that
guys.
on a
Thanks, Rob.
It is a Saturday.
Saturday? Across the street, I want to be open.
Yeah.
I too am Rob Cochran.
Don't confuse us.
But he takes after his mother, so I too am at 1033 Market Road. But Mr. Mayor, Councilman, my name is Rob Cochran. I'm the Tipton County School Board representative for Cicero Township. And I come before you today to express my deep and well-documented concern regarding an issue our community is facing. As you are all aware, our school system is the heart of our community, serving the children and the families who call Tipton home. However, we are facing significant challenges that threaten the long-term sustainability of our schools, and it requires your help. In recent years, we've experienced a troubling decline in student enrollment. In 10 years, we have lost 323 scholars from our school corporation, an average of 32 scholars a year. To put this in perspective for you, our average graduating class is around 100 kids. So every 3 years, we're shedding a graduating class at the school. This decline is directly tied to hundreds of jobs leaving our county in the last decade and a lack of housing initiatives that increase the livability of our community. As jobs leave the county, our population ages in place and families move to other communities with more to offer. Fewer scholars are enrolling in our schools. This decrease in enrollment has a direct impact on the educational and operational funds that we receive, which in turn limits our ability to maintain our assets and provide the high-quality education our kids deserve. I'm not going to bore you with the data, but I'll give you one real-world example. We must issue debt, and we must transfer almost $500,000 a year out of our education fund into our operating fund to maintain our current state. Almost $500,000 that's earmarked for our teachers and their salaries goes to operate our buildings because of our stagnation. Unfortunately, without new families, new housing, and new job opportunities, we're unable to generate the necessary tax base to keep pace with our growing expenses. We're at a tipping point. I'm the canary. I speak for myself in Cicero Township tonight, but I'm telling you we're at a tipping point. The lack of legitimate economic development has placed an immense strain on our schools. Our financial situation needs to be addressed. And our community cannot appeal to new families due to the lack of jobs and affordable housing options. I have nowhere for a teacher making $42,000 a year to live. Simply put, our tax base is not generating enough revenue to provide our community with the amenities and the school funding they deserve. I've watched your other meetings online, and I've heard you discuss potential go bonds and those issuance of those. I'm begging you, urging you, pleading with you to address the root cause of this issue and prioritize affordable housing and economic development. I urgently implore you to prioritize efforts that will attract industry and young families to our community. This includes the creation of new affordable housing projects and initiatives that brings jobs and economic opportunity to Tipton. Our schools play a critical role in shaping the next generation, and they're a key factor in attracting families who want to live in a vibrant and growing community. I would invite you to attend our meetings or watch them online and learn more about the challenges that we're facing. And I urge the city to take a posture of collaboration with local organizations, with the school board, and local builders to solve this issue. We must work together. No one person, no one board, or one government body can solve this alone. We must work together. Without immediate action, we're going to risk falling into further decline, which will make it even more challenging for future generations to reverse this course. The partnership between the city and our schools has never been more important, and I'm eager to work with you, alongside you, to create a future where both our schools and our community can flourish. Thank you for your time, for the ability to speak publicly to you. If there is anything I can do personally to engage with you on concrete steps to solve this problem, I am ready, willing, and able to begin to solve this long-standing issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
When is your next meeting?
The 24th is our budget meeting, and then October 12th.
I wanted to respond to Mr. Cochran just briefly. So for those who aren't aware, 32 students a year just on per pupil funding is roughly $10,000 per student per year loss. And that's, I think, being generous. That doesn't count property tax. So the school is losing every year roughly $323,000, again, being very conservative. And my class was 129 and was the smallest we had seen in a while. And I know it's gone up and down, but at one point we had a class under 100, and that was a really big problem. So with that, I would say that when I was at the EDO, one of the number one things people looked at before they looked to a community was schools. Next was housing. Well, schools here do pretty well comparatively, but then we've always struggled with the housing. And with no housing means no jobs, because no one's going to locate any sort of employment here when you have the third oldest workforce and it's shrinking. So it's not a positive perspective for a potential employer. So what I would just say is, I know this is an email that I sent to the council when we were talking about budgets. And the number one priority, and all the council agreed, take advantage of the city's unique financial position to encourage and incentivize population growth and development that includes market rate apartments, high density housing, townhomes, duplexes, quadplexes, et cetera, single family homes, and housing for senior citizens. So this council certainly agrees with you. And with some of the things we've talked about with EDAs and TIFs are coming down the pike and things like that, and discussions we've had with Keegan, is we want the same thing. The number one priority, in my opinion, is housing. We have to have a housing. If we don't have housing, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to locate a job here. They're not going to move here, no matter how great our schools are. We just have to have a place for them to live. So I'm optimistic that in the next year we will see housing projects. I mean, we have to, because you're right. Another 32 students lost per year over the next 10 years will mean everybody laughs, but I remember Bill Conyers saying the state at one time was seriously looking at not forcing consolidation of TC and Tipton, but Tipton with Heights. And if we are under 50, 60 students in the next 10 years per class, it will become a real possibility.
The state chamber tried to do that to us last year. We beat that back in the legislative committee. But
the fact that they're
that
talking
didn't
about
go
it
away.
means it's on people's minds. So they're looking at efficiencies too. And Taylor's too close to TC to that's too easy of a move for the state to do that. So I'm optimistic. I know we've got people moving here from Hamilton County and stuff, but the council agrees. I don't want to speak for the mayor, but from what I've heard from him, he agrees. So we just need to get it done.
Correct. Anything else this evening? Otherwise, I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, third.
Sorry, we had one final. Apologies.
I'm Laura Solomon Rich, and I've been here before about the trash, the recycle bins and everything, and I heard you guys mention it, so I was wondering if we could kind of like, what is it you're finding?
Yeah, so some of the two solutions that really came up was for an individual who places their bin on the sidewalk nearest the curb, the solution would either be to place it in the road next to the curb or actually behind the sidewalk. There's positives, negatives, and challenges with both. So what we're trying to do now is run through those scenarios. And there's certainly some challenges where neither can work. So we're just trying to figure out which is the best solution to address the ADA concerns that were brought to us. And then from a marketing perspective, we'll have to retrain the citizenry on how to put out their trash and recycling containers.
That's kind of what I was asking, like, is something gonna be done about the people that leave them out there 24/7?
I hope.
I think we have an ordinance that actually, now what that ordinance prescribes, I'm not sure. I know in some communities, they literally slap a sticker on it and then the copy goes with the enforcement officer. It's like a $25 fine every time you do it.
Listen, I have like 2 houses down, I have 3 recycle and 3 trash bins that sit out there constantly with trash bags on the ground, trash everywhere. That's one. One across from me it's a lot cleaner, but it's out there 24/7. They just go out there and empty their trash out there.
I think the ordinance states 7
p.m.
Till 7 p.m.
Tim and I are meeting tomorrow. Tim and I are in the ordinance committee. We'll take a look at it and see if there's anything that we can bring to the council to add, whether it's fines or, and if it is fines, then we'll have to figure out enforcement, of course.
Great.
But
Okay.
I'll put
And
stickers
I
on
don't
trash.
know. I'm kind of new at this, so I don't know what's allowed and not, so if this isn't allowed, but I had some questions about some of the things that they had said. So, okay.
Please.
First of all, when they were talking about the roads, he was saying about the bump outs.
Yep.
Because people can't be seen behind parked
Parked
cars.
cars.
There are no parked cars. When you go to the crosswalks and the corners, there are no parked cars. So that's really kind of not a scenario that's, should be listened to or used, because, like you go downtown here or even out here and I'm at a crosswalk, I'm not standing behind a parked car, I'm on the corner, so that's, but the other thing was, the slanted parking that he's talking about, I parked in Noblesville and it is so hard to get out of there. You can't see to get out, because the parked cars are in your way. So it's very dangerous.
Good point.
And if they get busy like Noblesville, then you can't even, just kind of pull in. So that's one that I'm very much against. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So we do have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor of adjournment signify by stating aye. Those opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Interrupt what?
See, not as bad as you thought.
Yeah. When's the tip? When is tis the season?
First Friday of December, so you should be done by then.
Should be done by then. They said they're, well, if it starts the 1st of October, it'll be done before December 1st. Be mid-November. They have a site of being completed before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
So-
too long. You're not gonna be able to get it.
Right. It just depends, and a lot of it